Order in the courtroom, order in the courtroom. Hello and welcome back to VR Courtroom. Judge Ekron sitting to hear the crimes against Mr. Guy. Mr. Bailiff, if you please fetch me 2 charge sheets, let's find out what he is accused of. Lovely, jubbly, pickety-pokey and all the noises. Oh, I say, okay, yep, this does seem relatively relevant. So, Mr. What am I going to call you? Mr. Guy, if you please be kind enough to come and stand in the black circle in the centre of the courtroom, please. Mr. Guy, you are accused of 2 crimes at the moment in time. I'm going to read them out one at a time, and I'm going to ask you to make a plea of innocent, guilty, or no contest. No contest being that you accept the charges and that you have done them. Do you understand?
Yes.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Guy, you are accused of 1 charge of trolling. How do you plead?
No contest.
No contest. Very well. The charge of trolling has been taken into consideration, and therefore we shall focus on this next charge. Mr. Guy, you are accused of 1 charge of kidnapping. How do you plead?
Guilty. Guilty, my honour.
No, you can't.
Well, Mr. Bailiff, would you bring me another charge, please? I'm going to keep finding charges until you accept that you've not done something. Because I'd rather like to get this case going so we can actually do something. Mr. Guy, you are accused of 1 charge of stupidity. How do you plead?
None guilty, my honour.
Not guilty. Excellent. In that case, then, this is the charge that we shall be going forward with. And the other 2 charges, the lawyers would do well to take those into consideration, because I'm going to bring trolling back into the mix, as I believe you were trolling the courtroom just there. So you have pled not guilty to stupidity and no contest to trolling. However, well, actually, no, you pled no contest to it, so it doesn't really bloody matter. You're guilty of that, and I'll make sure your bollocks are chopped off for it. But up until that point, you may return sitting next to your lawyer, please. Go and sit down. So what's going to happen at this point is the lawyers are going to join me in my chambers while I have a quick conversation about the charge that is laid out before them, basically what he's accused of doing. Once that's happened, it will come back. The defence lawyer, Mr. J, will speak with his client in the back room for up to 5 minutes. Mr. J, you've got to tell your client what he's accused of and how you're going to defend it. During that time, Miss Falconer will set her evidence out. Very good. Does the defence have any questions they'd like to ask about anything we just before we begin?
Nope, I'm okay.
Very good. Well, in that case, then the attention is going, because I'm now going to be lending the floor to Miss Falconer. Miss Falconer, if you could stand in the circle of communication and present your opening statement to the court, we would vastly appreciate that. Please don't piss on the rug. It's quite expensive to get it dry cleaned every Tuesday.
I will control my bladder the best I can, sir.
That's what I like to hear.
All right. I am here today to prove that Mr. Guy here is, well, stupid. Just effectively stupid. And I do believe that the evidence that I have will prove such. Yeah.
Okay. Does that conclude your opening statement, Miss Falconer?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. You may return to your seat then. And thank you for your opening statement. Short and concise, but exactly what I like to hear. I'm now going to Mr. J's opening statement. Mr. J, if you will be so kind as to stand in the circle of communication and present your opening gambit. Again, don't piss on the rug. It's expensive.
I will try my hardest. I'm here today to let you all know that my client, he may not be the brightest among us, but he certainly is not guilty of the crimes he's being accused of. I think they're just nonsense, and I'm here to prove him guilty for these just lies.
Okay. And does that conclude your opening statement, Mr. J?
That concludes.
Lovely. Okay, bit of a fraudulent slip. They're saying you're going to all make mistakes. Look at me. I work in the bus industry. So,
Say that.
hey, don't worry about it. It won't be held against you. So, we're going to move on to our full and frank cases. Although, before we do, Mr. Silver, would you please present this to the defence to begin with, please? If you could please put it to defense. The bailiff, Mr. Silver, will be bringing around a photograph of the accused. And this photograph is from CCTV taken from inside the location where the alleged crime took place. Now, I cannot tell you when this footage was taking place, but it proves that the accused has definitely been there at some point in the last 2 weeks. If you could present that to the prosecution, please, Mr. Cat, I'd appreciate that. Lovely. 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 So, as I said, Miss Falconer, for your benefit, this does prove that the accused has been to the police station within the past 2 weeks, although there is no timestamp on it outside of that 2-week notice. Again, I only do this so the defence cannot base their entire argument on he's never been there, he doesn't know where it is. That's just one of the things I do. I do believe I mentioned this was something I'd be doing, to be fair. So with that in case, now that both lawyers have seen that, I do believe there's nothing in play to stop further. So I'm going to hand the floor over to the defence attorney, Mr. J, to present his full and frank case. Mr. J, you are welcome to present your full and frank case as you see fit, letting me know which evidence you wish to see. Miss Falconer, you may object as you see fit following the objection rules. Mr. J, you did fail to not piss yourself, which is fantastic, or whatever it is you didn't do. You didn't pee on the floor, which is great. Please don't do it again, because you'll be up for a bit longer. Off you pop.
Okay, so the case, as we know, is my client walked into a police station with a gun and a baby, a newborn child. And I'm here to prove that just a misunderstanding. And he did, in fact, walk in there with a gun. That is set in stone. But he wasn't going in to kill anyone. He said, say, fire, holding a gun. But the gun was there. He was taking the gun after having seen a crime outside the building, and he was handing the gun in as evidence to the police. And I'd like to bring up evidence 1 if possible, please.
Evidence 1 on the screen.
You'll see here, might not be the clearest, cigarettes. And this was taken from the police station, where one smoking at the back, and he shouted fire because he saw the fire from the cigarettes and thought the building may have caught in flames. This is all true. That is my first statement.
Okay. Do you have any other pieces of evidence? Because you are supposed to work through the entirety of your case, Mr. J.
I would, yes. I'm just...
Oh, of course.
Could I go on to the second piece of evidence, please?
Of course. You have to ask me which exhibit you want up, otherwise I won't do it. I don't move.
The second one, yes, right. So what this is here is a slip of money and a gun, both of which were taken after the fact from the crime scene that my client here spotted outside, which was in fact a robbery of a local store. With that said gun and that said money, we know it's in there. That's just a little bit of proof. Just a little bit of proof that the crime did in fact happen at that store. And I'd like to move on to part 3 after that, quite swiftly.
Heads or tails, Mr. J?
We'll go with heads.
Right, evidence number 3. Okie dokie, bear with me for one moment. You may carry on.
So what I've got here is a box and a DVD. And this is what my client went into the store to buy. That box is in fact filled with groceries my client did buy from that store. And he also bought that DVD, which he did plan to go home and enjoy. But unfortunately, the crime happened and he decided to do the good thing and take evidence into the police store. Unfortunately, where the misunderstanding happened with the whole gun and the fire situation. On to point 4. Which is, you might not be the best thing to see, but as a birth certificate confirming that the child was of his ex-girlfriend's and he was simply babysitting at the time that this all happened. That is it.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
So does that bring your case to an end already then? I mean, nothing wrong with that, of course.
That brings my case to an end. I think I've pointed out everything I have to say.
Okay, Mr. Blue Jay, I must admit, without lying, you've done a lot better than I thought you were, based on the conversations we were having beforehand. I was kind of expecting you to show me a banana and say it's his penis and leave it at that. But fair enough, thank you, Mr. Blue Jay, for your case. They're comprehensive enough, I'm happy with that. Miss Falconer, I'm going to lend the floor over to you now as the prosecution to present your full and frank case to the courtroom. Mr. J, you may object as you see fit following the rules that have been laid out. Miss Falconer, the floor belongs to you. I'm not going to make a piss joke because I can't be bothered. Please, crack on.
Well, first of all, I do believe that the charge that we are discussing today is whether or not Mr. Blue Jay's client is stupid or not. So, I do believe that that is what we should be focusing on here, and not necessarily the supposed crime that occurred, and the supposed crime he was reporting. So, if you could go to evidence 1, please, or evidence A, big brain. Thank you very much. If you take a look at evidence A, you will see here the shotgun that what's his name? Oh my god.
Mr. Guy. Mr. Guy.
Mr. Guy. Thank you. You'll see the shotgun that Mr. Guy walked into the police station with. Unfortunately, I cannot provide the child that he walked in with, but he did indeed walk in with a child as well. And that, next to the shotgun there, is a police report of this incident. And I believe in the police report it states that he shouted fire very loudly. And he was holding this shotgun. Yeah. So, moving on, I do have a little bit of background to prove that this is not just necessarily a one-off bout of stupidity. So if you could go to evidence B, please. Thank you very much. This here is a photo, and you'll have to... You can clearly see the resemblance between this photo and the client. It may be a little difficult, because of, well, the stuff on his face, but, this was taken from his personal YouTube channel. Mr. Guy has a YouTube channel in which he just kind of shows off his antics of whatever he's doing. This is a school where he decided that it would be a good idea to, well, how do I put this lightly?
Male reproductive liquids.
Yes, he decided to use those as some kind of face mask, I assume? A skincare thing? I don't know.
Miss Falconer,
I'm no expert.
just before we crack on, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. What number am I thinking of?
7.
Mr. Guy, what number am I thinking of?
8.
8. Okay, you may carry on, Miss Falconer.
Thank you, sir. Just wanted to note, by the way, that, well, I mean, you can't really identify what this liquid is via video, but any sort of that stuff, what, I'm sorry, my brain is
Male reproductive
going in
liquid.
spurts, but yes, male reproductive liquid, to be professional. Anything really that is sexual in nature is not allowed on YouTube via terms of service. I assume that's kind of a given, considering it is not Pornhub. So yeah.
Go ahead with your objection, Mr. Blue Jay.
I'd like to bring up 2 points. The flaws I see here. One, we don't have any context as to why he has male reproductive liquids on his face. And we also don't have any proof that it is in fact male reproductive liquids. For all we know, this could just be a skincare cream.
Present. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
They are very valid points. If you'd like to retort against them, or I can do a coin toss if you fancy. Retort against them for now.
Alright, thank you. Well, actually, what we have in this lovely rainbow lid is actually a bit of what he has on his face in that photo there. And, well,
One moment, Miss
forensics
Falconer.
have kind of proven...
Mr. Cat, would you please
Yes.
go and fetch the rainbow jar off Exhibit B for my delectation, please? whilst he's doing that, oh, Mr. Guy. Ooh, heads or tails, old boy?
Heads.
Very good, very good. I shall wait for the bailiff to bring in the substance so I can have a closer look at it. Thank you kindly.
I thought you were gonna say taste. I would.
No. I'm totally not interested in that kind of thing, despite the fact that I like my men. This is not my cup of tea. Hang on, let me just...
Oh my god.
To put it rather bluntly, semen. That is very clearly male reproductive juice, and rather aged as well. You probably need to eat less fast food. You may return this to the stand now. Thank you, Mr. Cat, and you may carry on, Miss Falconer, as you see fit.
Thank you very much. If you could please go to evidence C. Thank you. Oh, wait, that's D, I think.
Oh,
Unless there's nothing
I
else.
do apologize.
That is okay. That is okay. This is evidence C. I kind of stacked it, my bad. But if you couldn't tell, that there is a paper copy of a fanfiction collection. And on top of that is a, first of all, very outdated floppy disk. For whatever reason, I believe, Mr. Guy here, this was also documented on his personal YouTube channel. Be a good idea to store his fanfiction, or your fanfiction, you know. But for whatever reason, he tried to use a floppy disk to... He tried to jam the paper in the floppy disk. It was rather sad to watch. He just tried to shove it in the floppy disk.
Can I object?
Go ahead with your objection, Mr. J.
Do we actually have proof that that happened? Or is this just out of the ass statement?
Miss Falconer?
Like I said... What? Oh, yeah, me. Like I said, it was documented on his personal YouTube channel, but if you want, you can do a coin toss.
Yes, Miss Falconer, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. What number am I thinking of? What number am I thinking of, Mr. J?
Price is right. You're thinking of 6.
You know, I've got to be honest, Miss Falconer has guessed the number correctly twice in a row. Fucking hell, are you reading my mind? It can be confirmed that this is from a video cord. I like old technology, and I think paper goes in floppy disks. On his YouTube channel, where he does spend 23 minutes shredding his fanfiction collection in an attempt to put it inside a floppy disk. Which is ironic, because I, a very, very long time ago, wrote a, not fanfiction, but an original story, and saved it on a floppy disk. Which should tell you how old I am, because I did that in school. But you may carry on with your case, Miss Falconer.
Thank you very much. Like I said, it was rather sad to watch. But if you could please go to evidence D.
Done that again, haven't I?
Thank you very much, sir. As you all can see, this is a mousetrap. Now, I would like to say, it was rather sad what occurred with this mousetrap. Surprisingly, it had nothing to do with his penis. But he decided, for whatever reason, to test whether or not the mousetrap actually worked by sticking his finger in it, and like I said, this is also documented on his personal YouTube channel. Yeah. It was graphic.
Okay, before we carry on from this point in time, Mr. Guy, this is genuinely probably the most important one I'm going to ask all day, but I am thinking of a number between 1 and 10. What am I thinking of?
5.
Okay, thank you. You may carry on, Miss Falconer.
I believe that is all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, well in that case then, thank you kindly. You may return to your seat, and a very interesting case, very heavily laid on the YouTube here, very, very heavily laid on YouTube, which what that last roll was about, which will be explained during Judge's summary, and something I would have brought up for the defence, but we'll kind of roll around with that as it is. But two genuinely honestly, very convincing cases. They've gone down very different paths, and I must admit I'm a little bit disappointed that the prosecution didn't focus a little bit more on the actual thing that's brought the stupidity charge to the forefront, but she has gone on a generalised stupidity charge, kind of what he's saying, so it's believable one way or another. And this is actually would have been a great jury case, because this would have been a really good one. But it's a judge case, and I get to make the call, and I've kind of formulated where I'm going with this already. But it's not the end of the case, because of course they get to make their closing statements. So I'm going to allow, in this case, the prosecuting lawyer to make her closing statement to the courtroom before the judge. So if you would once again stand in the circle of communication, please, Miss Falconer, and present your closing statement. You'll have 2 minutes to do so when you are ready.
Thank you very much. I would like to say that, like I said, I just wanted to provide evidence that this stupidity, this is not a one-off thing. There is a history, and honestly, I do feel that it makes things more believable with the actual events that sparked this court case. And with that also being said, Mr. to go over your YouTube channel evidence. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Falconer, and thank you for presenting your case. You may return to your seat, which means I will open the floor one more time to Mr. J to present his closing statement to the court before we move on with the judgy stuff. Mr. J, the floor is yours.
Your Honor, I would like to bring up a massive hole, very quickly, if I may, in the accuser's logic here of that didn't focus much on the actual shotgun incident, and also YouTube isn't a very viable platform, and things can be faked and done ironically on a YouTube channel, which may sound outlandish, but some people on YouTube are just blatant idiots. But none of this does not prove why the accusant and my can't remember the word has walked into a police station with a shotgun, and that just leaves my standing of they were handing the shotgun in open and still rather valid in my opinion. Thank you.
Okay. If that finishes your closing statement, then Mr. J, you may take a seat. Thank you. And well, not going to lie, actually very good cases presented by the lawyers. And again, not going to lie, much better than I thought you'd do with a case. I must admit, whenever I'm handed, and I don't mean to be rude to the bailiff, whenever I'm handed a stupidity charge or a trolling charge, they are some of my least favourite charges because they can be incredibly difficult to prosecute and defend against. But both lawyers have done a genuinely admirable job, and I wouldn't actually want to face off against them personally in a case if I was a lawyer. And you've already seen me lawyering, so you know exactly how I go. But we will begin with the defence's case as they presented first. And the defence's case very, very strongly focused on the actual incident where the stupidity charge had come around. For those of you who haven't picked up, the stupidity charge was that the accused went into a police station with a shotgun, carrying a baby from his ex-girlfriend, and shouted the word fire. Our defence lawyer started by pointing out how this mistake could have potentially happened in relation to the fire by indicating that one of the police officers was smoking inside the building. Somebody who could potentially be certified as an idiot. It would look like the building was on fire, but I suppose to a certain extent, if you see smoke and you're already a little bit shaken up. And adrenaline, if you don't know about it, adrenaline is actually a hell of a drug one way or another. Adrenaline is the kind of thing that gets you killed without even realising it. If you're under a lot of adrenaline from, having been involved in some kind of robbery one way or another, it's believable that having seen that, robbery, pistol, shot, that he's brought the gun in, then he's seen fire, fight or flight kicks in. So it's a believable thing. What we also had here was, and I like this because this was linking in a bit of what we refer to as world building as such, because he brought in the money and the other weapon that was recovered from the robbery by the two people who robbed, I believe it was a local station of some kind, but they brought in the weaponry, and this has been used as a piece of evidence here to back up the fact that this is where the original weapon came from. In a way, it's a little bit disappointing that the defence didn't point out how the accused came to be a hold of the shotgun. So how did he get the shotgun? I would have loved to have known, but if he told me, I've forgotten about it, which means it did not leave an impact. Who knows, one way or another. Because my mind, a crime that happened, and it is believable that the accused was there to witness it and act in the appropriate manner, which is to bring the shotgun up and take it to the police station. Kind of a stupid thing in a way immediately after a crime has happened, but again, adrenaline is a hell of a drug. Number 3 was the shopping that he had done. It was in a supermarket. The shopping he had done in a supermarket where he also brought a copy of Shrek. Now, this is probably one of the weakest points as far as I care, because who buys Shrek these days? Why don't you just torrent it? Like, you can find a copy of Shrek at a car boot sale for about 19. But I suppose it's valid they'd still be selling it in the supermarket, and the client would buy it, staying above the law, which is quite an intelligent thing to do. It's quite intelligent to not be a criminal, to be fair. Using a box to carry his shopping home. I don't know, maybe he's saving plastic, the bags. I'm not entirely sure why it was a box. I'm going to take that as a suspension of disbelief. But again, it's very, very believable. And the last piece of evidence was a LinkedIn account. So to point out that because obviously a charge of kidnapping was brought up as well, which he has pled guilty to, the accused, which originally was one of the reasons the stupidity charge came in, is because he pled guilty and no contest to kind of some of these things. But in reality, knowing that the child was not kidnapped, but he was looking after it for his ex-girlfriend and just happened to be caught in a terrible situation, most likely the ex-girlfriend, potentially the defence could have said here perhaps the ex-girlfriend had asked him to look after the child and then wrong in a kidnapping charge, saying he kidnapped him to try and get him done in because she's a terrible person or something, but the defence didn't. But it's believable that this charge isn't actually relevant, and the fact that the accused has pled guilty to this at an early point in the trial means that I'll be holding the original charge of kidnapping against him in any way, shape or form, as I do believe that is a genuine misunderstanding. So, yes, if one thing, you've got him off that charge. But that was defence's cases as I interpreted it. And I said he focused very heavily on the accused as it was, the accused lifestyle and exactly what was going on at the crime, which there's nothing wrong with that. Now, fair and dandy. It is what it is, but we shall move on to the prosecution's case now, which I do believe was the aid. And the prosecution focused at first on the actual crime that had been committed, the actual thing that brought up the charge of stupidity, which was, he walked in with a shotgun and shouted the word fire whilst carrying a baby. There is a police report as the accused was arrested for this because, walking into a police station, carrying a shotgun and a baby and shouting the word fire is kind of a stupid thing to do. Although, with the explanations of what the defence has said rather, it's an understandable mistake in my mind as it currently lies, but this again is world building, proving that this did happen, and there's no contest that this did happen, so good from the prosecution. The prosecution then went on to source one piece of information continuously all the way through. And there's nothing wrong with picking up on one source of information, but in a second, which was the accused YouTube channel. I'm quite disappointed that neither lawyer decided to speak to the accused about the YouTube channel, so we could perhaps determine a little bit more information about it, but neither lawyer chose to do that. That's neither here nor there. The first was referencing this video where using your own reproductive material as a face cream. Now, obviously, if you don't know anything about semen, getting it in your eyes can blind you quite badly due to the fact that semen basically eats the material that your eyeballs are made out of. Yes, it's true. You can go blind from getting it in your eye, which means that if you ever do go that way and they go towards your face, cover your eyeballs up because you can go blind if you don't get it treated. So this would be an incredibly bloody stupid thing to do, not only as very bloody disgusting, to be fair. And it's a very valid point that's been brought up by the prosecution lawyer here as well, that content like that is not allowed on YouTube in any way, shape or form, because as quoted, this isn't Pornhub. Hey, fair enough. And it is pretty stupid to try and upload something like that to YouTube. Again, I'm kind of disappointed neither lawyer chose to speak to the accused about this, but this is definitely what happened. It is what the video was listed. I find it with a discussion. We had our closure with YouTube, as you will, to get it sorted. So this definitely did happen. We then moved on to another video, the fan fiction related one, which is another case of this definitely happened. There was no contest here. The accused attempted to save his fanfic collection, whether it was written by himself or collected from the internet. I don't actually remember, if I'm being honest with you, but it's a moot onto trying to shove it into a floppy disk. And to be fair, if you've ever actually used a floppy disk, and most of you might not be of age to actually have used a floppy disk in school or something like that, getting paper inside them is genuinely a very difficult task. So, pretty dang stupid thing to do, to be fair, and there's no question that it happened because I watched the bloody video, and I can tell you, I genuinely felt 30 years older after watching that pure and utter stupidity. But that brings us on to our last one, which was the typical finger trap, mouse trap test. What does it feel like to get your finger trapped in a mouse trap? Well, I can tell you from personal experience that it fucking hurts. Flipping hurts, rather. Apologies, streamer. It bloody hurts, because I had done it on my toes when I walked in my hallway, and my fingers, but not my other part as of such. So it's believable that do this without necessarily being stupid, just as something that people do. People are curious and do stupid things. So those were the cases that were presented to me, and both genuinely very good cases that covered a lot of interesting points. And it's a difficult one because the defense lawyer brought up the very point I was thinking of in his closing statement, which is that many people in lives go on YouTube and act. They do things in a very acting and very comical manner to get views. Think about, for example, I can't remember his name. Carl Sagan, for example, who is a Mario speedrunner and Mario player and all that crap. An over-exaggerated scream consistently whenever anything goes wrong. He acts Markiplier in general. It's a lot of overacting is done on YouTube to get views, and a lot of purposeful stupid is put on YouTube because it gets people watching. You want to watch the person getting their finger caught in a mousetrap. You want to watch, or some people do, I bloody don't, but you want to watch the people bloody putting their fanfic collection on a floppy disk. Literally, you physically want to see this kind of thing on YouTube. Or at least some people do. Mr. Lazy, I'm going to politely request that you return to the gallery as you are not part of this court case. I do appreciate that. That means go back over there, please, old boy. But yeah, it's a difficult one, really, because both cases are presented very well. There's clearly a history that Mr. Guy, if he's not stupid, is acting stupid. But acting stupid is also actually quite a valid thing to do, and realistically, with adrenaline running through your system as of such, having seen the crimes you can see, he didn't act in a particularly correct fashion in that particular instance at the police station, but I don't actually think he acted in an inappropriate fashion either, considering that, adrenaline is a thing. So with that in mind, this is actually a very difficult call, but with that in mind, with the cases presented, I do not think that the prosecution has quite done enough to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Mr. Guy has acted in pure and utter stupidity throughout the course of his entire life. Although there's acting there, it wasn't proven that he was actually physically stupid, just that he acts stupid on camera. And there wasn't enough focus on the actual crime that brought the stupidity around, whereas the defence's case was very strongly around explaining how this happened. And so with that in mind, it is my judgment that the accused, Mr. Guy, is not guilty of the crime of stupidity. However, they did plead no contest to the charge of trolling, and therefore I sentence them to be blinded by having their own special facial cream shoved directly into their eyeballs.
Justice.
That's it. That's a court case.
We agree. What about kidnapping? No, doesn't matter.
No, the kidnapping charge was dropped, remember? The kidnapping charge was dropped because the kidnapping charge